stream, get resourced. Love always to check in with what's alive in you today.
Even though I know you asked this question today, I don't know how to answer it. I feel a little sluggish and lethargic, maybe.
Oh,
Yeah.
what are you needing?
Simplicity, and I think our new car to come in and not have to do so much paperwork.
The paperwork is draining, huh?
Yes. Takes me
Mm,
out of my routine and different things, and yeah, this red
mm,
tape.
mm.
How about you? What's alive in you today?
Um, there's a sense of like fog or heaviness.
Mm.
Um, there's a desire to have the sun shine and heat. I'm really craving that. Yeah. And there's also some like surprise of how the week went by so quick. Like, whoa, it's Friday. And of course, the whole car situation. Hey, Giselle. I'm also thankful that the chat is working on Restream so I can see some of the comments.
It's helpful. Hey,
Yeah.
Giselle. What's
Yeah.
alive
So
in
that's
you today?
where I'm at. Yeah. But yeah, I'd love to hear what's alive in you as you tune in, as you all tune in. And today, yeah, we really want to share what's going on in our worlds. And what's bubbling up for me is the word grief and the energy of grief. Yeah. And this yearning to be more skillful with grief and to grieve, and also to be unskillful in grief, permission to be on the floor in a fetal position and just bawling my eyes out on the kitchen floor or something like that, and just allowing that to be. Yeah. Because there's something for me to be with all of it, the depths of the spectrums of emotions, so that I can experience the other side of things as well. Like for me to be in touch with the depths also allows me to be in touch with the highs, right? And the contrast with that. So that's where I'm at. And I'm curious
Mm.
to hear how that's landing for you. Hey,
Mm.
Naomi. Welcome.
Hi, Naomi. Um, hmm. Yeah, grief. Hi, Summer J. Oh, hello,
Hey, Jen.
Jen. Grief. Yeah, we used to something last night in class that struck me from a teacher. Uh, Grief
Yes.
turns into grievances when it's not expressed. And I know from some of my clients, and what's popping to mind right now is grief is an appreciation of what we love. It's an expression. And having been to a few funerals this year, there's quite a difference between people's grieving processes. Um, Sometimes it's just a formal, do you show up and they tell you what they did in their life, versus there's a saying that says, no one ever pays attention to what you do. They pay attention to how people make you feel. That's what people really experience. They don't remember what you do. They remember how they make you feel. Um, but it's so interesting to me that we don't talk about that. And when people go to funerals, it's usually, oh, we were born, we have two sisters, they did this job, they were an advocate for this, but there's nothing really about their presence.
Mm.
And I recall having a client once who came in with nightmares. And the nightmares was she was in a school bus and this black figure kept jumping up in the window at her. And she would wake up startled and alarmed. And as we do our somatic work and inside out, we allow the energy to filter through us no matter what it is, how scary we think it is. She suddenly realized as it switched from the dream image as she breathed and observed it to a little black puppy that she had had.
Mm. Wow.
So this thing she was terrified was her puppy, and she realized, "Oh my gosh," like, she loved that thing so deeply, and her parents didn't give her the opportunity to grieve. They didn't have a funeral, they didn't bury it, and so she didn't get the opportunity to thank that puppy for its life and what it gave to her. And as soon as she was able to just say to that spirit and in her, "Oh, I so love the energy you gave me and what you stood for me as a child in my life," her nightmare stopped. But she acknowledged the life that was given to her as a child. And I had a dog I loved dearly as well. And, my parents' idea was, well, let's just ship her off to camp and then we'll put the dog down while she's away. So they didn't tell me. And when I came home, we're sitting in the car and all they said to me, "Yep, Ozzy passed away. He died." That's it. Um, I realized later that they had sent me away so they wouldn't have to talk about that and see me grieve. And it was just such a startling thing. Um, and
Mm.
unfortunate. Our culture is very unfortunate.
Yeah, it's unfortunate our culture that, we're in kinda lacks the support to do grieving well,
Yeah.
and there's a big piece of, like, this, like, personal judgment of myself of, like, why am I afraid to grieve and to be with this depth of emotion? And my mentor told me that, like, it's not like a personal failing, rather, it's a cultural poverty we find ourselves in.
Well, Giselle had something there. She said, "I for a while I deeply avoided loving because I didn't want to experience the pain of loss." And Jen says, "I once read grief is the love looking for a home." Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's unfamiliar territory, this grief. If I'm not used to experiencing it, then it can feel very daunting and scary. This idea that if I go down, I won't come back. But someone
Hmm.
shared with me this idea of, like, if I if I do go down, I won't come back. But if I don't go down, I won't come back. If that makes sense.
When you say go down, so
Mm. For me, it's like the depths of my emotions to be, like, engulfed is the idea, the fear that I will lose myself
hmm,
if I were to be in touch with that. But then the inverse is also true. For me to be in touch with that, I also come alive.
mhm,
So it's kind of a paradox that this fear is like, because it's unfamiliar, I'm gonna lose myself. But then it's through experiencing and feeling it that I actually feel alive and really get in tune with the contrast of that, which is gratitude and joy.
mm. That's interesting because when you say engulfed, it seems like this thing is bigger than you and outside of you. That's how I picture it, and for me, like, grief is an emotion of other emotions that I observe and feel within me, so
Yeah, I can clarify what I mean by engulf. It's actually from the inside, not from the outside for me. It's this contraction
mhm,
going inwards and just like being really, really in it. like the deep despair and the sorrow and the
Mm.
anguish and the wallowing, like just like yelling and screaming, and it's so visceral and so primal that our culture typically doesn't create space for that. But what it does create space for is celebrations and joy and excitement, right? Like even in sports, for example, you can see the highs and lows. The
Yeah.
highs are really high, but the lows people don't talk about as much.
I mean, I don't wanna make the subject sports, but I think that's a pseudo place where men get to experience all their emotions and their violence and their all of that, whereas in society, m much of what we need to express isn't really considered.
Yeah, I'm just using it as an example
Yeah,
of what's being accepted, right?
yeah, yeah.
Where
Mhm.
where emotion, extreme emotions are being witnessed and okay to be accepted. That it's okay if your team were to win, that you can go crazy and that's accepted.
I know.
But then the opposite is not.
Mhm. I know you had mentioned that in tribes back in the day, they would have a communal expression of grief, the letting go of what was to become or allow something new to emerge in
Mm,
oneself or the tribe, and I don't know which one you were talking about. I remember you saying, they used to drum and the women would scream and they would drum and they would express. This is a thing, it's a type of energy that needs to move through us, and it does move through us if we allow it. But I'm thinking, and I've seen quite a few posts from some of our friends that there's so much collective grief that's backlogged into a dam that hasn't been expressed, like, collectively, and I'm
mm.
really, you know, curious once that dam breaks, or maybe it is starting to, like, what that's gonna look like.
Yeah. I'm starting to realize too, and I want to hold this thought and tend to Giselle's and Naomi's comments here. Giselle said, I think maybe you shared this already. I think for a while I avoided deeply loving because I did not want to experience the pain of loss. Naomi says, it broke my heart when my dog died last year. Yet as I grieved, I found my heart had broken open in a new way, a new tenderness and presence for other people. Yeah. And new beauty to life. Yeah. The bitterness of losing a tangible body, but the sweetness of how special life is. So it's kind of like
Mm.
the lows of lows allow for the highs to be experienced. And I'm still grieving him. Yeah. Maybe always will. Yeah. Hmm. So taking that little detour, I'm noticing myself losing my train of thought. Can you support me again of what you said last?
No.
Mm.
But I'm prepared to go where Naomi went, which was like, you always will. I mean, when there's a special life that touches you, deeply, there's probably a few people in our lives that impact us in such a
Oh,
way
yeah.
as to redirect the force of our life.
Mhm.
Even what's coming to mind is even when I was born as a young kid, I thought there's something missing to life here. I think we know there's a special sweetness in what's true in life, and sometimes we're always looking for it. Um, because I think we all know we come from a beauty, from a benevolent spiritual realm underneath everything, or some of us do. At least that's what I feel deeply in my knowing.
Mm.
And the grief comes from knowing that most of us don't see that in ourselves or each other. And as a result, there's quite a lot of violence in our world, separation. And I think it was Mother Teresa that said that, in the West, In the East, there's a lot of poverty. They can't get a daily dose of bread, but in the West, there's a whole different kind of poverty, and that is the poverty of a longing for God and a longing for love. And true love comes with grief, but to grieve is to have loved so well. And so you're saying
Yeah,
high and low, and I'm like, maybe it's just a different type of energy. It's like good and bad, high and low. There's this qualitative judgment versus allowing the energy of life to express through us in a way without judging it, but feeling both the power, maybe the depth, the sorrow, but also the sweetness at the same time.
yeah. It's the contrast, right? And you speak about like the violence, like Martin Prechtel says, like war is unmetabolized grief.
War is unmetabolized grief.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
So just the idea that, without processing grief, it turns into grievances. Yeah. And it's just the invitation for the energy to be expressed and move. And what I do see is I know I'm at a place in my life where, death seems to be around the corner. Like I sense it. And I know I sense it with the people that are getting older that are important to me. The frailty I'm seeing, I'm witnessing as well. And so there's a desire for my own personal development, my psyche, to be in places where grief is tended to in a sacred way. And so when I see like other places in the world, there are like grief circles, right? Grief tenders, people that hold space for whatever is alive to be grieved and held in a communal space because that grief is so big for one individual to hold. And there's something about me grieving by myself in a bathtub or in my room, it just doesn't feel complete. That I do want my grief to be held by another, to be witnessed by another. There's a sense of healing that moves through, and I experience it myself, when I even share things super vulnerable for myself. Journaling it, sharing it on my own is so different than it being witnessed by another in a safe way. Like, safe way meaning, like, they're not trying to fix me or give me advice, comfort me because 'cause they're uncomfortable with that emotion. They're just with me. And how can I be with someone in their uncomfortable emotions when I haven't experienced those uncomfortable emotions myself? Because when it's unfamiliar, then it's like, uh, there's a part of me that feels uncomfortable or uneasy.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I guess having been with different people with different emotions, not all emotions and energy are that, and they can't be created, they can't be destroyed, they can only be transformed. Staying with no matter what it is until it transforms, to me, that's the most beautiful expression of life there is, that we are an energetic being in a meat suit, and every opportunity I get to be with energy as expressed through us in life itself in this divine, energetic way. It's like, oh, I get to see more of how life works and how it operates. So I'm seeing there's a bit of a fear of the unknown. Um, but I think as you observe the unknown, whether it's starting a new painting on a blank canvas or going to a new country, um, and as you face the fears around those things for yourself and you meet the fear, just like my friend did with that scary puppy popping up in the window of her, realizing, oh, that's love that hasn't been met with my appreciation, and I haven't grieved that yet. Um, you start to see that grief or life or energy or whatever it is that we're facing that we're most afraid of isn't what we thought it was. We have all these ideas and these misperceptions that clog up our life force energy. Um, so I think trust is a really big piece of that. Um, I don't think man knows better than the life force itself. And I think the practice is starting to um, meet the unknown with a sense of adventure. And we're taught to meet the unknown within us with panic and fear and derision and judgment. And you go out in the outside world, well, we're going to Timbuktu. It should be a fun adventure. It's like, how did we get to be so afraid of ourselves? That to me is the biggest, perhaps, grieving I have is wow, there's so much untapped beauty.
Hmm. Yeah. It's a good question, right? Where do we go from here? And yeah, Naomi confirms that like she needed to grieve in front of others and be seen. This aspect of myself that what I so love, like grieving is love's last gift, is important. Like that it matters. This confirmation, right? This mirror that wow, it's confirmed by another. Oh, I will speak for myself of why it's so potent and powerful to have someone hold that with me. Yeah. Giselle says, as I'm going through the different changes in my life, oh yeah, there is a grieving that takes place, and being witness as I let go of old patterns and old beliefs has been very powerful. I really love that because there's loss like happening all the time in a day. Even as simple as like having expectations, right? And it didn't go the way that I wanted. Like to be able to let that go for me is a grieving process. Though also as I get older and I hit the gym, there is that like hit of reality of like, huh, you know, I used to be stronger. No, I could live as heavyweight, but there's an acceptance of a different set of focus of mobility rather than size, having size and strength. And that's an identity that I've grieved and I'm starting to let go more and step into the sense of maturity of myself, this new stage of my life, rather than holding on to this fantasy that I'm young forever, you know, like not dressing my age, for example. And not to say that like, I mean, that's a judgment. So it's more of like, what am I running away from? What am I avoiding here? And yeah, I can dress however I want as my forms of expression, though is it conscious? Is it like my choosing to meet me where I'm at right now, my authentic expression? Or is it to like, I'd say reminisce of past times and being lost in the past, chasing that particular experience in the now? Yeah. So I just want to throw it back to you, Summer, to see I was afraid to
Interesting.
hear that.
Um, yeah, interesting that you're bringing um, age or past experiences and wanting that. I mean, reminds me of people say, "Oh, the good old days" or whatever. Um, and it comes back to the word presence, like, and maybe Eckhart Tolle's book, "The Power of Now." Like, where are we now? Um, I know you said, expectation is something you grieve when you don't get your own way, I guess. Um, and I remember always having expectations at Christmas, and now it's just so much more fun to show up somewhere without anything and to be open to the unknown and what could happen in the presence of the field of the people and the experience itself. And so I think once we're in in flow a little bit, and I think grief is like a river too. It's moving and flowing. Bless you. And once we start to accept that the river's flowing and we don't try to move against it, it is, there's less expectation and just more, "Mm, I'm getting in my boat and I'm rowing down the river to see what comes by in my life. Oh, wow, look at that tree. Look at the owl in that, on the river. Oh, this was unexpected. Never see all this coming. Oh, isn't this interesting?" Because in the expectation of what we want to see, we might miss so many different opportunities.
Mm.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
what I hear from that is like, to be in touch with the life force, the vitality and the sensuality of life. And
Mm.
that brings me into, Mankind Project is a men's work organization, and they work with archetypes. The four main archetypes are king, warrior, magician, lover. And they say the gateway into the lover is grief,
Oh,
which is kind of mind boggling because when we think of the lover, we think about sensuality, fun, playfulness, aliveness, and grief doesn't seem to be that way, right? And so I like to throw this question to you and to our audience. What do you think that means for you? That the gateway into this lover energy, the zest for life is through grief.
mm. Jen just put a "Just Around the River Bend." Can we play that music? We'll have to do that later. Just around the river bend. Okay. I'm gonna watch that, listen to that. Um, the question is, what does that mean to me? And could you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, like the gateway into the lover is grief, the lover
Right.
energy.
I as you're exploring grief, what comes up for me? Oh, I'm excited then to see how the lover emerges. That's what comes up for me. Um, the gateway is through grief. And yeah, that makes sense because wasn't it Giselle that said grief is love looking for a home? And so true love comes out of the ability to grieve. Because you can't truly love if you're not willing to lose what you love and have a space. When I think of grief, I think of an empty space, something that was there that was full of abundance and life and that gave nourishment. It's like having a farm full of vegetables and then it's gone and there's no nourishment. And so then um yeah, the willingness to appreciate, to give thanks, to give gratitude, and allows us to really truly appreciate what we have. Otherwise we just don't even stop to recognize any of it. We're just going
Mm,
through life, bulldozing through.
mm. There's a sense of appreciation and value versus like this entitlement,
Oh, and yeah,
right?
yeah. Um, somehow I think gratitude and grief are tied together. Um, yeah, entitlement. I don't there's no appreciation with entitlement.
Yeah.
No.
Giselle says, I don't know if you can have one without the other, as if it, lives on the same spectrum, like love and grief are, you know, two sides of the same coin.
Yeah. Yeah, two sides of the same coin. And so what are we doing when we don't have any grief processes in our
Mm, right. What's the impact of that?
what is the impact of that? And as you said, war. That's the impact
The lack of appreciation for life.
for life itself. as it runs through our own bodies, as we restrict the feeling, as we restrict all that, we're restricting life itself. And what does it create? Yeah, war within ourselves.
Mm.
Out there in my world, speaking of which, when I was speaking to my dad, I did visit my dad on Tuesday. It's the last time I will see him in his living form. And he said to me, maybe it's not so bad I'm leaving. There's a lot of wars, countries fighting countries. It's just so ridiculous. I was like, yeah, it's true. And so I've heard a few people say recently, as their loved ones have passed, well, maybe they're going to the better place. So what violence do we do to ourselves when we don't allow ourselves to feel and to grieve? Like people recently too. Well, let's hold it together. What are we holding and why? Why do we have to look like we don't have emotions or life energy running through us? Why were we taught that? Why? I don't know. Giselle says to me, I think she means it's like how much you appreciate your health after you've experienced illness. Oh. Mm. Mhm. Yeah. After having the flu for 2 weeks, you feel even way better. Oh, wow. I feel fantastic. Yeah.
It makes me realize how much I appreciate what I have, when I'm in touch with, what I've lost and the depths of that, and it's as if like for me to have compassion, let's say someone on the street, like I gotta be in touch with that pain of that. It's just the same thing. I'll give an example of simple example of hosting a party and knowing how much work that takes to clean and to invite and the energy of just holding that space. So if I go to someone else's house and they're hosting, there's care and consideration because I've been on that side. And so I clean up after myself. I make sure things are in the sink. Right. Make sure, if there's any support around because I've been on the other side and I do desire support when people do that for me. So someone that's driving in a Lamborghini that hasn't, face, financial poverty or anything like that, it's hard for them to relate to someone asking for money on the street. So when I be in touch with like remember you draw that picture of the bleh, bleh, that little puddle, right? And just staying with that and being with that, it really just cultivates more compassion. I find for myself more capacity to be compassionate.
Right? When we sit with those parts of ourselves, we draw them out, then it's so much easier to sit with anyone else on the street
Without,
otherwise.
yeah.
Because they're just the inner images are just as real as the outer ones that we think are separate from us. Um, yeah.
And that's why, I find traveling is a very humbling experience. It's one of the early experiences for me that opened up my perspective to other ways of living. It allowed me to, you know, accept differences and diversity and also be connected to it. It's kind of a paradox, isn't it? Like that diversity seems to lead to separation, but it's just expressions of uniqueness that we all also have the same problems as human beings. Everybody, no matter the country, has the same issues, has the same values. They value family, they value connection, they value freedom, right? No matter what food you eat or how you go about praying or the songs you sing, like,
It's the same life force energy that runs through all of us.
yeah.
Heartbeat, whatever you wanna call it, the electromagnetic signal, it's not any different. You use the same life force paddles to bring back a heart that you do in one country than the other, and,
Yeah. Though the strategy to meet those needs are different. And what I read about, Japanese culture in spaces where they do like sharing, right? Places where they do their work, there's an inherent connection to making sure everyone speaks. So there's
mm,
careful consideration that if I spoke already, I'm not going to take up space because this person hasn't gone. And everybody is connected to that. And when someone speaks in Japan, they give them space. They don't hurry them up, they don't interrupt because they know that they're coming to a certain point, that they're adding context to what they're sharing. And it's being held by the group, which is so like opposite than Western, right? Cultures where certain parts, certain people, like they take up more space than others, right? And depending on my societal, cultural, racial background, right, that can influence when I take up space or when I don't, whether I'm a man or a woman, right? Whether I'm a minority or a majority. And that can also like bring up trauma and bring up past experiences as well, right? That are being projected upon, which is quite fascinating in like group
hmm.
dynamics.
Interesting how you're bringing up, speaking truth and what's alive in us in a group context, because there is some grief to not having a voice, to not being heard, seen, understood, recognized, um, not having your presence and your life-serving energy being admired, being appreciated, being able to give life to itself to contribute to others in the world. Um, it's probably maybe one of the deepest griefs there is. That's how it turns into grievances, isn't it? Feeling suppressed, repressed. Um, when when you've been born, when you have so much to provide and to give and to share, and it's being stifled, repressed, either from by ourselves or the circle that we're in. I was actually Here's an interesting thought that I was thinking last night. I We have a little cute little black cat here, and I took it outside in the evening, and I'm really liking actually the green grass, and it's all wet and it smells delicious. And I was like, it's so beautiful outside. And it was 10:30, some the lights are on. I'm like, it's just so pretty out here, and all the lights reflect off the water on the road. And I was like, I'm the only person out here. Like, where is everybody? And the thought occurred to me because in different cultures, like Malaysia and places I've been, people are just outside all the time. There's a hubbub and a joy. And I recalled having my badminton rackets in a drawer right in front of our front foyer here that we haven't used yet because it's been so rainy. I thought, oh, it's not raining right now. What if everybody down the street was just used to coming out at 10 o'clock and like putting on music or badminton or throwing, the frisbees across the road to each other? Like that could be something people do, like more lively energy, more joy. Although, I know there are 80 to 90% of people that are on antidepressants at one point or another in life. Their energy's depressed. And I wonder how that's linked to grief and the lack of expression of like we have such beautiful bodies that can run and play and move and play games with each other and drum and sing, and we don't do a lot of that. People are all in their house. You go down the street, but they're all sitting there watching TV, or a vast majority of them. I'm like, come outside and play with me.
Yeah, you're speaking to like cultural conditioning, societal conditioning, even circadian rhythms, right? Northern hemisphere, equator, southern hemisphere. And there's so many layers to that. Though I hear it as a desire um, for people to connect and have fun. Like last Saturday, 1 week ago, there was this outdoor festival in our neighborhood in the local park, just 2 blocks away, called Highlandia. It was beautiful. It was so fun seeing people out and about, selling the wares, hanging out, listening to music. There's something about like, of course, I love my alone time, 100%. Though there's also this piece of like being with people and also in my bubble that feels so comforting. Like, don't disturb me. I could just be here and hang out with other people around me that feels, yeah, the word comforting versus if the field was totally empty and it was just me. There's, so there is a yearning to be, in that blanket of human connection. And there's also times where I'm like, oh, I'm done with this and I just want my own space. Yeah. Yeah. And Giselle says, what a world. That is a world I would love. Yeah. And it reminds me of like, there's a study and it's out there where like countries in the northern hemisphere like that have like a lack of sunlight for most of the year, like Norwegian countries, they're naturally introverted people, right? And there's something to it. Like, why is there a particular pattern with this? And people that are closer to the equator, they're more like lively and joyous, and yeah. And you could say cultural pieces in there too, and besides where you're located, geolocation. But that's the
Yeah.
diversity, right?
Mhm.
Everybody,
Well,
yeah.
and that's the beauty of understanding life more is the diversity. And I think a lot of people in Marshall Rosenberg's work, we were just studying one of the chapters recently, which is like enemy images. When you see a person, what's your first thought? Are they going to do something to you? Are they enemy images, or do we have a different perception of reality? And how do we bring about reality? If we reach something with fear, how does that other person respond if we're speaking to them from a place of joy or some other way? Um, so what's it like to think of diversity in people and go in with curiosity, um, and learning more about life itself through all the different lenses and how we've just been taught to okay, my to be right or wrong. The biggest grief I have is like, wow, why are we so limited in a dichotomous world of right and wrong when there's so, you know
Yeah. Well, it sounds so simple, right? Everybody would love to live in a world of love and peace and wonder why violence is happening. And, that's when I'm regulated, my prefrontal cortex is online and it makes sense. But then when I'm in a situation where, I'm at night and this couple, let's say 5 men are walking behind me, there's a particular type of vigilance here that shows up, and it's much more complicated too, because I'm dealing with past experiences. I'm dealing with what my parents told me. Hey, don't trust anybody. Don't open the door. Don't give money to homeless people. Right? Just examples. Right? That's really baked into the programming. And so, yeah, I may have these aspirations to be like loving, but why do I find myself not so loving with people? And it's not a matter of like, oh, I'm so bad, I'm terrible, I'm a insufferable human being, like judging myself that I'm broken and not good enough. Rather, just honoring that, hey, perhaps that's just a normal nervous system response. In that moments of distress, this is what gets responded to protect me, to keep me safe. And when I can be aware of that, okay, where does that come from? And create more internal safety for myself to actually embody what we call, hey, just love everybody. Come on, hold hands. When there's a lot of grief that's unprocessed or trauma that hasn't been integrated yet, right? Energetic stamps.
Yeah, our responses are often, yeah, pre-programmed. We don't realize that. So the safety recognizing is actually created and when we create the presence to address what's alive in us, what's happening in our world, what are the thoughts, and being able to observe it real time within ourselves. Um, that's when the safety starts, when we can come back to our bodies. Speaking of grief, eesh, how many of us have been taught our bodies are the enemy we have to fight, force, and fix it, and maybe they're
Yeah.
just messengers.
Yeah. And so taking it far of treating it like a machine to be hacked, right?
Yeah, machine, yeah, the biohacks. You can do more longer.
I mean,
Way more.
there's some, like, power to that, like, there's some good science behind that, right? It's like but then it's like the being aware of, like, how far am I taking this, right? Yeah, if we
Well,
can get that edge, cool, but then what's the impact of that? Is it sustainable? Like, give and take, like, yeah, just bring more conscious awareness, I find, whichever decisions people
well,
make.
I'm curious about how and why. Like, my understanding of and I don't know how we got to biohacking, but let's just run my body faster longer. And it's kind of like it reminds me of the harebrained tortoise mind. The hare brain always wants to go fast and get things done and win the race, but it's always the tortoise that actually wins. So, um, I think that whole thing is
Yeah, so here's an example, like, I mean, if there was a supplement, like
valid.
something that you take that makes you live longer or gives you more energy, right? Without like sacrificing any particular thing. I think most people would take it, right? It's like this edge, right? But then how far does it go where I'm like counting my pills? I'm not really living life. I'm not eating that banana cream pie. I'm being so strict and boxing myself to this regimented activity to operate optimally for a certain
Well,
way. Like how much self judgment is in that?
yeah, I
'Cause
think
I
people.
take creatine, right? Like, I work out, why not? It helps me, recover faster, for example. It supports my brain health, right?
I think it goes back to the self-harm, to the intention behind why you do anything. Are you exercising to appease someone or look good or get a photo done, or are you doing it because it feels joyful? How much energy I had one lady, she was a cancer patient once, and she said, I went on a diet and it was so strict and so regimented. I was so stressed and had so much cortisol because she was trying to optimize and get the edge that she needed. She almost killed herself. So, there's something to be said of going back to the basics. What is life serving to me? What gives me energy? And sure, take the supplement if it gives you energy, but why are you taking it? Is it just because it's good for you, or is it because you're trying to compete against someone else? Like, what the intentions behind doing anything has a lot to do with its outcome, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. And also being aware of, like, if I don't have my sleep together and I'm eating like shit, like, taking the supplements ain't gonna do anything on a shitty foundation,
Mm.
right? So, I think we can go a long way when, people can get I can get my sleep right. I can get my exercise in and my nutrition. I can imagine like having empathy for those that are living a full life, right? And having to juggle two jobs or kids. And yeah, that something's got to give, and most of the time, like personal health, right? Connection to self is given up. Yeah, I just want to name that.
Yeah, I don't know how we got here, all around about back
It's cool.
to grief, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, the
Hmm.
appreciation for life itself, I think, is grief.
Right, right. To how to generally get to a space of like life giving activities, thriving life, um, um, contributing to life, growing, like, and that kind of goes back to myself, right? Like, if I'm in survival, like mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, then it's not realistic, right? Like, it's some pipe dream or some message I tell myself to be better, and then shaming myself for not being that way. I guess it goes back down to the oxygen mask thing, right? Analogy. They'll also use to fill your own cup first. Self connect. Give yourself empathy.
It does, and then we go back to what you said before and Naomi said, because I think there's a lot of hyper independence in our culture. When we can give ourselves empathy, sometimes it's difficult. We need a body double.
Yeah.
Community is just so the authenticity of community and vulnerability. I've never known something so healing than the community that we have.
Mm.
Everyone starts with the individual, but it can't end there because we're on the planet sharing a collective experience. We really are one. We can try to be hyper independent and cut people off and wall people off and stonewall or whatever. But the answers are inside of us.
Mm.
And when we share what's inside of us, that's when we share life with others. Whatever the judgment people have about what's inside of them, and they shouldn't share grief, they shouldn't share their thoughts of this or that or whatever, but the instant you do, it gives to life rather than taking it.
Mm. Yeah, there's a sense of like experience the opposites. To have a full breadth of the human experience really allows me to be more human. I mean, that totally makes sense, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, I think I mean, it's truth, right? It's honesty. People appreciate honesty when we're vulnerable. People then can trust you.
So true. There's
You then
something
feel safe.
tied to like to be more soulful is to be more trustworthy, right? Because if someone is not in touch with their anger or grief or unfamiliar with it when they're in the presence of, it's scary because we're not sure how this person is going to react. Yeah. So the invitation is to be in touch with all breadths of your human experience, to create space for all the parts of yourself with curiosity and just simply presence to be in touch with. Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to look up this, you had this quote, that I just read this morning somewhere here, um,
Hmm.
about that concept, and I
Hmm.
wanted to ask you who that came from because I didn't actually write down.
Yeah, it was from Stephen Jenkinson.
That's Stephen Jenkinson. Yeah, it's such
Yeah.
a beautiful, just
I
wanna
can
see
pull
if
it
I
up
can
here. Here, I'll
there you
pull it
go.
up. Yeah, so the capacity to be in touch with your own humanity, vulnerability, soulfulness is trustworthy to other human beings, meaning there's something trustworthy in being human because being human is hard. If you're in touch with your own, that's actually more trustworthy when people can feel that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I see it. There's a shift when people like when I get in touch with some vulnerability, some realness, I lean forward. I become alive. It starts invoking emotions within me. It's like a transference. Like it's alchemical.
It
Healing.
is alchemical. Yeah.
Like, oh shit.
Yeah.
That's why people go to comedians. Comedians talk about the truth.
Yeah.
They
And
blatantly
humor
point
is such
out
a
the
good thing
truth.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To be playful about it, not to be serious. Said the other day on our communication support call, or what do we call it? Our rest and relay call, R&R. We were drawing parts of us that were like, "Meh," like what was alive, right? And mine was, I'll show you on the screen here. Still have it here. That day, that was on Monday, I drilled this part. Do you see that? Right there.
Yes.
That's the part of me
We
that
have a
was in the driver's
time.
seat. And yeah. Okay. And then I called it at first, I'm like, Mr. Nzai, no, that doesn't feel right. It's Mr. Like, right? It's like somatic, like it's a scream. And it's like, let's be prepared. Let's go time. Like they're just like so restless and anxious there. And that was
Yeah,
alive
that
in me on
looks
Monday
very
because
anxious.
I'm noticing when Monday comes around, and I think it was baked in during my 12-year corporate career, like waking up on Mondays after a weekend, it was just like, holy shit, a fresh new week. It's back on the hamster wheel. Like it's in my nervous system as if like all I did in the last few days were not counted. It's a fresh slate now. You you gotta be productive now. You gotta make the day now. Does anybody relate with that? Does anybody relate with that? like, oh my god, like I'm just back on, and so this guy here is there, and there's a sense of like relief when I was drawing it out and just kind of laughing at him, like, oh my god, that's so funny, and there's a separation, and I love to
Yeah.
hear like your piece there too, if you like to share that meh blob.
Well, yeah, I was feeling meh blob. Just yeah.
Mm.
Just not feeling motivated. And as soon as we were all laughing at our drawings and how we were feeling, man, that was just so uplifting. I was like, hey, I'm good now. People's nervous systems are the most medicinal that we have when we can speak to what's alive in us. We're sharing an experience.
Mm.
As it's, even people that are suicidal, right? There's this whole I was trained in suicide. Okay, when, where, what, how? How are you doing it? You know what? If you can get out of trying to, like, fix them or do anything, like, even ask them those questions, if you're with them in their experience, which, like you said before, is a bit tricky if you haven't experienced that and you're afraid of the unknown or whatever is happening, you're not used to how energy just moves through people and recalibrates for them, you don't have to do anything, then it's scary. But suicidal people, all they want is, "Yeah, I can understand why you wanna get off the planet. I totally get it." I can move through this. All emotions, even the most devastating ones, move through us in 30 to 90 seconds. It's the hanging on to the judgments of what we believe about life or ourselves and what's going on that stifles and kills life. I
Mm.
thrive when people share what's really going on in their judgments, in their mind, in their thoughts, in their being. I don't care what it is. In fact, I had the most fun on the psychiatric unit in the, because people were real. They're like, I don't give a fuck. I'm either gonna kill myself or walk off the planet." So I'm gonna be super honest here. Was it ever refreshing? It was refreshing.
Mm.
Yeah, all these people walking around like half dead zombies.
Mm.
Yeah, that to me is
Hmm.
that to me is the grief. To go to get raw vulnerability and real honest expression, and you have to go to a psych ward where people are more sane than the
Mm.
people outside of it. That's how I looked on it.
Mm. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're all playing Ken and Barbie out here, right?
Right, Hollywood, or let's act like this is how we're supposed to behave. Why don't we just trust our nervous systems and our emotions that this is how we're wired and trust that? Hmm,
Um,
that's novel.
yeah, I love that because just to be aware of the system that I'm in, right? I'm operating in this system that's geared towards domination and control, and so just naming it, okay, how can I, with these awarenesses, these tools, these skills, um, go against that, like against the grain?
Oh, Giselle, she just said, "The most painful feelings I have ever experienced were experienced alone."
Mm,
Mm.
mm,
Giselle, I have a weird question. You may not know how to answer it, but if you could imagine feeling that and telling other people, like in the women's groups that we're now in and experiencing that, what do you think might have been different, or how would you have felt, do you think? Jen also says they've been more in touch with the feeling, someone. Giselle, when I experienced these alone, it was so easy to have them stay in my body. Oh, yeah. And when you share with others, it comes out of the body, doesn't it? Gets
mm.
stuck. It's like this re-loop. I'm not sure, Jen, what you were they
It's about the psychiatric peeps.
Oh, yes, right, right, yeah, they're definitely more in touch, and then that's, of course, then why they tend to drug them, and then they don't know what to do, but
Mm.
yes.
But yeah, like grounding this in reality, right? Just okay, this is the reality I live in. How do I, with this awareness, these tools, you know, choose differently, choose a different path, slow it down, and yeah, that's That's the work, isn't it? For me. Mhm.
Slowing down, I think, is we often run from feeling.
Yeah.
Slowing down.
Mm. Yeah.
Not easy in our culture, we've been taught something different. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Slowing down to
that's
smell the roses. Slowing down to smell the roses, and in us, it's emotions. It's the beauty of the emotions. They'll come in different.
yeah. I mean, that's the challenge, isn't it? Like if everybody was slowing down to smell roses, that's easy. I'll just do it automatically because I just want to fit in, that part of me, right?
Well, may I it's true.
Yeah.
Mm.
Don't cancel me. I'm with you. Oh, this feels good to slow down, and smell the roses. But then when everybody's like busy, 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 and violent with each other because we're just feeling unsafe and dysregulated and stressed and overwhelmed, right? Like that's what
Yeah.
happens. That's what happens when the amygdala hippocampus is online. We're in war, right? More like, and I have that in me too. Yeah,
We all do. We all
we
do.
all do. I'm human. So like
Yeah.
to recognize that and slow down, and that's really the test each and every day in this moment is like I'm given an opportunity where perhaps I judge the person being rude to me. How am I going to respond? Yeah.
Yeah, and that's
How am
the
I gonna
choice.
deal with the pain that comes up? Am I gonna resist it? Am I gonna avoid it? Or am I gonna sit with it? And what a friend said, like, to just be burned alive. Like, bring it on. Hilarious, right? That's what he called it, right? But it's like
Oh,
to allow just the emotion
mm,
to just flow through without resistance, right? And for
oh,
me, the practice of like acknowledging grief, like appreciating grief and seeing grief as love. Love and grief are the same, two sides of the same coin, showing me that, oh, this is what lets me know that's precious to me. It's what matters to me.
true.
And
And
to
there's a
help that move
practice
through.
of actually being able to feel that because we can think that and go, "Okay, I see it," but the other is practicing feeling, and not the feeling
Yes.
that come from judgment, but the
Yeah,
first
and I prefer to do it in groups of people in community than by myself. It's so much easier and it's so much more exponential for me.
Oh, everyone learns, everyone grows exponentially. Absolutely.
Mhm.
110%.
Yeah,
Collective grief. We'll have to talk about
that's
that
right.
next time. Get to drum and play and sing and scream and do all sorts of actually fun things to process it.
Mm, yeah.
So what's
So we're
one
heading towards the
final
end here.
mhm.
Yeah, what would you say is your final, guess, gift or even a golden nugget?
Ugh. Well, that's pressure. Um, I
No
don't know if
pressure.
I have one.
Yeah, that's
I
good.
think the more we allow our original and what I might call our core sensations, because there's a secondary sensation and a feeling after a thought and a judgment we have, but those core sensations, the more we allow life to move through us, the more appreciation we show, the more acceptance of life itself, the less painful grieving is, because it's just flow.
Mm, I love it. For me, it's like for me to be in touch with my soul, to be in touch with my humanity, leads to me being more trustworthy.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
And as you're more trustworthy, there's less war and less grievances.
Mm,
Mm,
right. So beautiful.
beautiful.
All right. So speaking of groups, we have a Facebook group. If you're not a part of it, yeah, check it out. It's
The relational
I keep,
wisdom
I keep,
community on
yeah, I keep bouncing back. Good resource, relational wisdom
all
community.
relational
Yeah, so
wisdom.
relational wisdom community. That's right. And
YouTube as
we
well.
also have a YouTube channel. Yeah,
Relational wisdom,
relational wisdom. Got it.
right?
Well. Till next time.
Bye for now. Bye, everybody.
Bye.